Hello, I am Scott Herbst, founder of Six Flex Training and Consulting, and you are watching or listening to The Flex. This is a show where we have conversations with people who are expressing leadership in business with the intention that it open access to you expressing yours. I am really excited to be here today with Yrenka Sunderlin, founder of Sunderlin Behavioral. They are an agency that provides in-home, center-based, community and school-based support in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and California. Did I get all of that?
You sure did.
Awesome. Yep. So they are spread out, and as usual, I really like to let you hear my guest story from my guests. So I'm going to say thank you for being here, Yrenka.
Thanks for having me, Scott. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, let's have fun. So where I always start is, I'm interested in how you, where your leadership pathway really started, and you can start back wherever you want, but interested in like what had you take the risk, throw your hat over the fence, whatever you would say about like, what, I'm gonna open and grow my own company.
Yeah. So leadership wise, I remember becoming a BCBA and being very excited and having my own caseload. And I would be working for a company where, it was a wonderful leadership and support. And then I noticed changes, of course, corporation type of changes where we would be required to take on more of a load and more of a responsibility, feeling a little bit stretched out, sometimes, and going through that burnout phase. And back in that day, we didn't have the data collection software that is available now. So I would have to go to each kiddo's home and pick up the binder and go back to my office and, Excel everything for that kiddo's program and put it together. And so I would do this frequently. And then I would find maybe another home, another company that would start small and would have that, very personable, close interactions and relationships with families. And then we would go through the same process. It would get very corporate, very fast, So it happened a couple of times during my, initial career. And then I thought, I do want to give it a shot. I feel like I have the skills and knowledge to be able to just have my own private practice, start small, something simple, consultation. I think a lot of BCBAs do that after a while when they're not able to feel like they found a home. And so the consultation started growing, and I consulted for a group home. I consulted for schools just because I had the experience of working at a level 12 facility in California. I had the knowledge for 7 years. So I had the knowledge of what it would be like to work
at a level 12 facility.
A level 12 is basically the last step before it's correctional. So it's one of those where they live there. It's for emotional disturbance. Parents already lost their custody. So it's one of those types of facilities where there's a lot of behavioral concerns. There's a de-escalation room. They receive psychiatric care, and mental health services and other services as well.
So you were working with people with challenging behavior.
Oh yeah. And nothing to do with autism. When I first got started, it was at a group home for children and teens. And here I was 21 years old, and I was in charge of 6 teenage girls. And I was like their caregiver. And so I would give them their medicine, and I would have them cook meals with us and manage their chores and things like that. And it was an interesting experience for me because here I was 21 and they were 16, 17, and I was like their mom, driving them everywhere. But it was an amazing experience. I would say that working at a group home with individuals with, you know, mental health challenges was truly an eye-opener for me.
What how did it open your eyes?
Well, so uh I'll skip back to that and then we can go back to the leadership,
Okay,
finishing up
cool.
that question. But yeah, so one of the things that helped me in this group home environment was that I started with a bachelor's in psychology. And I was a childcare worker. And then an opportunity came up after 4 years of working as a childcare worker to become a behavioral specialist. And at this group home. And so I work with social workers and I work with psychologists. And so when I took on that opportunity, I was super excited. I was like, what is this behavior modification? Oh, yeah, I remember taking a class in behavior mod for my undergrad. It sounds pretty cool. I had to create a program for myself on how to increase water intake in my routine. It was just a fun, you know, little project that I did for my undergrad. And then, so I'm like, yeah, I would love to take this position, not knowing anything more about behavior analysis or I didn't even know what behavior analysis was. I just knew it was behavior modification. So I take on this role, and basically you're given a budget by the state to create rewards for the kids that you work with. And in addition to the other services they were getting, and it was kind of like a newer program back then in California. So I kind of get some guidance from the social workers, and I don't know what I'm setting up. What's baseline? What is the, you know, am I setting up the right criteria? Am I supporting and reinforcing behavior along the way? I didn't even know any of that. So sadly enough, there was a situation that happened that because I wasn't educated enough, the individual that I was working with, we had our group, we had our circle time, and this particular teenager did not earn what was set for her to earn because obviously it was so subjective on my part. And so this individual runs out of the, you know, the group, and all we hear is a window just completely glass breaking. So I run out after the individual after she was told that, you know, they weren't going to get the reward that we set up. And I see that they have a shard of glass, like waving it around. And then they put it against their neck. And so I run back and I talked to my boss. And of course, thank God she was there. She was the best social worker I've ever worked for 7 years, very knowledgeable. And I saw her just go into action immediately on crisis mode. She's like, call 911, tell them this is at 5150. Here I'm in my 20s dealing with all this. And I felt like, oh my gosh, this happened because of the program I set up that wasn't probably, you know, set up correctly. Thankfully, nothing happened to this individual. They were hospitalized and they came back, but that completely opened up my eyes as to like, I am not educated or trained to be a behavior specialist. So I heard about a certificate from Cal State LA, and I'm like, certificate, you know, just like any other certificate, you take a couple of classes, you get certified.
Sure.
Went into you know, the Cal State LA program, and I honestly didn't want to get my master's at the time. I had a little boy by then, and I just wanted to learn a little more so this can never happen again with any of the kids I worked with. So I took a class, and it was honestly the hardest class I've ever taken. It was with Dr. Randy Campbell, and it was the first ABA class, of course. And then I was like, my eyes started to open. I was like, I could have gotten baseline. I could have set the criteria in a way that was systematic. This is what all the things I could have done would have avoided this girl hurting herself potentially and getting hospitalized. So I would stay after class, every class with Dr. Campbell, and I would be like pulling my hair out, like, oh my gosh, Dr. Campbell, I just don't get this, you know, and he would explain it to me. By the, you know, almost the end of the class, I did well, but he mentioned, hey, you know, you might want to apply for the master's program in behavior analysis. And I was like, ugh. He's like, just apply, see what happens. So I applied and I actually got an interview, and they were only accepting 12 people per cohort, and there were only 2 cohorts. So that's 24 people they were accepting that year. And it was my favorite thing, which was a group interview, which I'm horrible at group interviews. I literally would draw, say nothing. I just
Mhm.
kind of read the room. So I'm still working at the group home at the time. So I go into the group interview at candidly, and Dr. Michelle Wallace was actually there. It wasn't even Dr. Campbell that
Oh,
was
she
going to
was
interview.
a professor for me
Yes. Yeah.
at
So she
University of
was
Nevada.
there. I had no rapport with her whatsoever. And of course, I have 6 people around me in this group, and everybody, oh, I work at CARD. Oh, I work at AST. Oh, I work here. I know Dr. So-and-so. I know Dr. So-and-so. And I literally was like, I work at a group home. I know no one that's in the ABA world. What do I have to offer to this interview? So honestly, I think I answered one question in like 20 minutes because there was no, I felt like nothing, people are just beating me to the answers,
Yeah.
and they were all dropping names. So I was like, well, that was that. I'm not going to get in, you know, but that was fun. So I went home, not thinking much of it. And then I get a letter that I was accepted. And later on, I found out that Dr. Campbell really appreciated the fact that I was working so hard in his class that he wanted me in his cohort. And so he, thanks to him, I was accepted at Cal State LA for the ABA program. And so I was like, well, I was accepted. This is for a reason, and I'm just going to pursue it. So that was honestly the biggest thing that happened in my life in the beginning stages of my career, where I felt like just because you get trained or you get some little certificate doesn't mean you're truly qualified to be a behavioral specialist. It could have cost somebody's life. So that completely changed everything for me. And then that's when, you know, I took off with behavior analysis. It was something I loved. I felt I connected with the content and the science. It went along with my personality, and it was not an easy program. I had Dr. Schlinger, Dr. Michelle Wallace, Dr. Campbell, Dr. Mayer. These were my mentors, and the classes were very, very challenging those 2 years.
Awesome. So then you're certified, you go to work, and you find that you've got this pattern that repeats itself where
Yeah,
you're at a place where
yeah,
it's like we really care, but then the focus shifts to being more, I guess, more money oriented. You didn't really say that. You said corporate.
yeah. All of the above. I don't want
Hmm.
to say the companies that I've worked for were completely money oriented, but the growth was so exponential that I think it could have been handled a little differently.
Okay.
Um, yeah, yeah. So it just felt like a lot of us supervisors were just getting a lot of cases and responsibilities, and sometimes safety was not always a priority, I should say, because you know, at the end of the day, quote unquote, I've been told it's a business. So it was one of those things where it just left a sour taste in my mouth. I understand, of course, you know,
Hmm.
if you're a for profit, you got to keep your profit going to support multiple families, but also not putting staff safety and client safety first was something that just didn't sit well with me after a while. It started well, but then when I saw like they were hiring so many people and we were taking on so many cases, it just wasn't sustainable at that point for me professionally and personally. So that's what propelled me to just, hey, you know, I'm creating programs, I'm creating um you know, treatment plans, I'm learning about contracts with the school district. What's holding me back from doing this on my own? So I actually did it, and it was hard. It was not easy.
Yeah, talk about that. Talk about some of the challenges you faced.
Yes, yeah. So the first 6 months, it was me just going out there and getting connections. Of course, I could never, you know, cross the line and poach or reach out to, clients from my previous, place of employment. So I had to start from scratch and be like, here, I am this individual. This is what I'm about. This is who I am. So I actually went first to the place I knew best because I had switched from mental health to the autism world, right? So I decided, well, this is exactly what the mental health, the group homes need. They need this training that I didn't get when I was working
Hmm.
there. So
Yeah.
I did reach out to group homes, and actually they were very excited. They were like, okay, you can train our staff, you can, do workshops, you can help our staff get RBT certified. This is going to be great. So honestly, that's how I got started first. It was going back to what I knew and also an area of need. I knew there was a niche there that I could fit, a need that I could fill. So
Yeah.
that's what I did. And it actually was very successful. That's how I got my name to be recognized at that point. Oh, Yrenka, she can do these trainings and things like that.
Yeah. Awesome. I want to pause here and just point to that. I hear that a lot in these interviews. I've talked with, a number of people at this point,
Mm.
and some people with some fairly unusual business models, but not like, I don't know how to say it. Just unusual in the sense that it's different. And I think one thing that stops people is that they look at just what is already in the market and think that
Yeah,
it has to be done that way. And there's so much opportunity by really looking at, well, what do I know? And uh, where is there a need? And
exactly.
oftentimes there's a need just because someone hasn't before said, oh, I could go do this there. There's like a certain, I guess, like kind of a rigidity in
Yeah,
people like,
yeah,
well, this is how I've seen it done, so I should probably do it this way. And so I really appreciate just looking at, well, oh, where's a need? I also really appreciate the commitment to ethical practice um, that you brought. Like, I'm not going to poach people. Um,
no, no. And it's happened to us at Sunderlin, and we can talk about that later. 15 years running a company, it's happened to us big time. But even in front of me during a Calavo conference, I had one person go up to the supervisor next to me that worked for me at the time, and it's like, you should come work for us. We're awesome, we're cool, things like that. And
uh-huh.
she was great. She was like, I'm happy at Sunderland. Thanks for the opportunity. And she immediately let me know. So obviously, ethics for her was very important too. But yeah, it's happened in front of me, behind my
Hmm.
back and via emails. And, that's not necessary. If the person wants to reach out to you, that's different by all means. But reaching out to them out of the blue, knowing that they're in a particular company, that's just, to me, not ethical whatsoever. But as far as the looking for a need, I really do feel like behavior analysis can be incorporated in so many different ways. You just have to be creative and go through the discomfort of having to try something different. Don't do the same formula over and over again. It's been done. Direct intervention, consultation at school, consultation for parents. Okay, so that's constantly being done and done and done again. Try to look at where is there a need as a behavior analyst and how can you fill that need and take that risk and go through that process of that discomfort. But if you stick with it, as we all know, schedules of reinforcement, right? You got to deal with it until you get that reinforcement. It's going to be a while. It's not going to be immediate, and you're going to get a lot of people like, I'm not interested, or no, not for us. But someone out there is going to say, wow, this is great. I really appreciate what you're offering. Let's give it a shot. And it happened.
Yeah, awesome. And so you're starting to get a little traction. What is your next challenge?
Ooh, so after that, it was then hiring people. So I was still following that formula, right? Like, oh, we're going to do direct intervention because that's all I knew. And so we started to grow, and I started to hire people, and then that's where, you know, different kinds of headaches happen. But I hired direct interventionists, and I started hiring behavior, you know, BCBAs. But what I did a little different is I really tried to get RBTs to grow with me, to mentor them. So I started focusing more on the mentorship part of the company, and really working on how can we systematically get you to be ready to be a clinical supervisor. And there are many things that programs don't teach you, which is people management, you know, admin
Mhm.
tasks. And so that's where most supervisors fail at the first year, or have a really, I wouldn't say fail, but have a really challenging time. I see like, you know, people really struggling, burning out that first year. They don't want to give corrective feedback. Oh no, you know, even though we're going through the appropriate way of providing feedback and support and following the BST model, they're very hesitant, you know, or they don't get their reports submitted to us on time so that we can review and send it to the insurance. So these are things people struggle with. So what I started doing was, let's have you do the direct intervention, and then we're going to pay you without billing the insurance for you to start programming for yourself, and then I'll oversee that part of it, and I'll overlap with you, and then I'll do the supervision, but you're doing the programming for yourself, and see how you're performing as a therapist from the perspective of a supervisor, and see if you're, you know, if you're aligning to what the program needs to look like. And so that's something
Talk
that
more
we
about
started.
that. I don't quite get what you're saying there. So
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
explore
So
that.
we Absolutely. So basically, one of the things we do at Sunderlin is somebody that's in their master's program, getting their BCBA, they're doing, let's say that's still the direct interventionists, they can't supervise.
Yeah.
So what we do is we invest in them by teaching them systematically how to be practice to be a supervisor. And how to do that is we pay them separately, non-billable time, to
Yeah.
sit at home in front of their computer and analyze the programs and their own data collection, right? So they're looking at their own performance and saying, am I meeting trial counts? Are my programs clear?
Hmm.
How's the trend looking like, right? Do I need to adjust the program, the treatment plan? How's I have them create a positive behavior support plan, right? A BAP. And then I review that with them and make sure that everything is in the line. And I go, okay, so you just saw your own data collection. What mistakes were you making? Oh, I see that. Okay, so that would be the feedback you would give somebody else if you were overseeing them. You know, make sure that you address those things. So that process alone has been something that everyone that's moved up in the company really appreciated, because it kind of helped them get them ready for a leadership position without just jumping in from, hey, I got my bachelor's, I was an RBT, now I got my BCBA, I passed the exam. Oh, good for you. But you don't have the skill set to manage people. You're not ready yet. So
Hmm.
jump straight into a clinical role position when you're not ready. So at Sunderland, we have it where we prep them to be ready. Once they pass the exam, they have the admin skills, the leadership skills, and the clinical skills ready to go and manage people. So that's been very different, something I've really take pride in.
Awesome. And let me just pause and break it down so I can be sure I got it and our listeners can be sure I got it. So it really is about having people reflect on the key competencies and components of their own job and then evaluate their own performance against those competencies.
Exactly.
And
And you know, yeah, and it's self-management, of course, but also is looking at perspective taking. Like you have to put yourself in your, as a supervisor, what are you seeing? As a therapist, what are you seeing? Right. And that is really
Mhm.
important to keep in mind as you move up in, you know, in your professional career. You have to have that perspective. You can't just have the perspective of, I'm a BCBA and this is what you're going to do. Now, let's think about this. How would you approach your RBT so that you get the performance you're looking for from that person? So that's why we're doing that.
Great. So then on top of the reflection, stepping back and saying, okay, now let's just look at what you've seen from a supervisor's perspective, looking at, the person you're supervising. And if you saw this performance from that person, how would you act? Am I getting that?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then we systematically, from there, we keep adding more responsibilities on their plate. So, like I said, by the time they pass, they have their master's in ABA, and they pass the BCB or the BACB exam, and they are BCBAs, they're able to now truly be a successful clinician and not have some of these failures that they may see it as that, or insecurities, or just being overwhelmed and burning out so quick, which I've seen before.
Yeah. Oh, this is great. I love this. I'm all about developing people and training. So this is cool. I'm curious what you've seen and what difference it makes in terms of having people to really stand on their own as clinicians. And but also if you've seen a difference in terms of how it then, like how they then supervise and manage, and not just supervise, manage like the mechanics of it, like are you taking data, but really are you developing people, like are you taking data and let's bring you to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some people really embrace this system that we have. I've seen some people come in already into Sunderland where they're with their BCBA and feel like the expectations I set are a little too high and react a little bit to that.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, and again, this is why Sunderland is still small after 15 years. We only have like 45 people across states. It's because ABA is so important to me. It made such an impact, and I had the most amazing mentors. I mean, they did not. I used to get not quite right on my papers from Dr. Schlinger saying that I didn't get the answer quite right. So I'm not sure if I'm going to give you a point or not. I went through that kind of a class to the point where I feel like I have to do the best I can to make sure the people out there that are having their BCBAs truly can practice and not just going through the motions, not just regurgitating the information, or not just, oh, I just got a degree. They can digest and understand and be able to then teach other people ethically. And that's honestly been my what drove me to my own business in the first place. I'm one of those people that is a little too rule governed, actually. And so when it hits that I need to make sure that people that are practicing ABA with ethics and to their best of their knowledge and ability. That's the goal for me, honestly. Even if they leave the company, I did my job as a mentor. And that's what fuels me to stay in this field. I mean, I've been in the field of psychology for 30 years and I have yet to burn out. So it just fuels me to be able to teach and mentor and send them off into the world and know that I did the best I could to have them represent the field of behavior analysis in a way that is impressive. And so honestly, that's been really inspirational to me.
I love that you've said you haven't burned out, and I want to talk a little bit about that, because I think one thing that a lot of people would say about an approach like this is that it's so much work, that like I'm paying non-billable hours, and then I'm developing someone to really be able to reflect, and that takes time in a supervision meeting. And then you've got to sit with people as they reflect and coach them and develop them, and all of that takes time, right? And so I'm curious if you can see what are the benefits of putting that time in, not just from a like these clinicians are trained, but for my own peace of mind as
Mhm.
a business owner and a leader. What difference does it make for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've actually had moments where I was like, why am I doing all this? Why am I giving so much of my energy out to people that potentially are just going to leave, not be so grateful about the experience, maybe, or sometimes have animosity. It has happened. But honestly, the way for me specifically, as I am built, um, when I meet with families, and by the way, that's something I do still. I meet with every family once a month. I
Hmm.
jump in and I do an observation, and that's what fuels me. Seeing again, keeping relevant, and saying to myself, I need to see what all this sacrifice is about. So jumping in, looking at the staff performance, and seeing the kiddos and seeing the changes. And so that's how I continue to reinforce myself, seeing that, yes, what I'm doing has collateral gains. What I'm doing has an actual greater reach. I'm training those to then train others in a way that it'll continue. And so I think that's what fuels me to stay motivated and not burn out. And also, I am I am a person that loves innovation. I'm a person that loves challenges. So I continue to challenge myself in ways that look at how everything that I know can be put into a system that can then help other people. And so that's something I'm working on right now that we can talk later, but it's actually something that's very exciting because I'm the only person that's actually doing something like that.
Well, let's talk about that because we actually we're about 30 minutes into our conversation. So let's talk about this new challenge.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So 3 years ago, because I always like to learn something new, I started really getting into AI. And I would attend conferences and I would have conversations with AI specialists and engineers. And I was like, okay, there's a lot of issues with AI. We all know there's still AI hallucinations and all kinds of things. However, there's got to be a
I'm
way that we
dealing
can
with
use.
it today. I was sharing with you before I sat down that I'm having it walk me through connecting different elements of my website, and it keeps forgetting what we just talked about.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. There's challenges, but also if you really explore options on how to prompt it in a way that will get you the answer you're looking for. That's something that I've been working on for a long time, just teaching myself how to explore and ask questions so that I can get a better answer and then test it again to make sure I have the right answer again. But one of the things that I've been working on is I started also the Yrenka Method, and the Yrenka Method is a company that is I created 3 different tools for life coaching for young adults. And it is very much mixing behavioral science with emotional intelligence and and AI, basically. So looking at all 3 so that the individuals can have support without being therapy. Of course, this isn't therapy. This is more of a life coaching model. And it's a tool. It's more of a tool to be able to help you. So if you, for example, are struggling with, you want a coping skill, or you're dealing with a situation that maybe you're lacking that perspective taking or that emotional intelligence to respond, which I see a lot of young people struggling with these days, to be honest, it kind of gives them a step by step on how to manage that situation in a way that makes more sense and will have better outcomes. And actually, I now have almost like 3,000 followers on Instagram, and it's mostly young
mhm.
men
Oh,
between the
interesting.
ages of 18 to 24, maybe 30. 98% of the followers are young men that are really interested in a tool like that, just because maybe they're not getting support elsewhere. So that's one thing. But the biggest thing I would say for Sunderlin is that the Yrenka Method in Sunderlin are creating a HIPAA compliant caregiver tool. So it's going to be launched in January, and this tool is going to live in Microsoft environment where the parent can get lessons in real time, in downloadables in real time, with AI support tools. to just be able to access this anywhere, at any time. And we then get a notification when something escalates to a BCBA being needed to intervene. So that's something that we are testing right now. We're really excited about it, and we're going to launch in January.
Awesome. And is that going to be part of your offerings at Sunderlin?
Yes, absolutely. So we are still finishing up a few things, but that's going to be a big focus, just because insurance companies are pushing for more caregiver support and training. And so there are possibilities that, maybe some families can get access to a coverage, or maybe their plan doesn't work and they just need educational tools. And these are not just videos. These are literally interactive tools that you can ask in real time questions of like, oh, I need help with this, or just simple strategies like, oh, my child's doing this. Oh, well, the chatbot will say, well, what's happening before? And just simple things like that to be able to guide the parent. And also using acceptance and commitment therapy a little bit in there. And not the therapy itself, but just some tools, because a lot of parents are dealing with a lot of stress, and they're not able to see the light at the end of the tunnel and getting through that difficulty of implementing something. That is where, this tool will really help parents work through that difficulty, and just set small, goals for them.
Awesome. Two questions I love to ask people. The question I really love to ask people is, looking back on everything you've accomplished, what is something you're really proud of?
Something I'm really proud of. I would say still staying in the game, still having Sunderlin Behavioral, and we survived COVID. We survived California's financial pressure cooker, to be honest with you. And we survived labor shortage and issues, and we're still standing, and we're doing extremely well. And I'm grateful for that, because we're still out there providing ethical and quality services to the families that work with us. So that, honestly, I'm proud of that.
Awesome. And my last question is, if people are interested, how can they reach you?
They can reach me through the website, of course, sunderlinbcba.com, or they can, always look through LinkedIn and reach out to me that way, or intake at sunderlinbcba.com. That's another way to be able to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Yrenka, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights for the last 40 minutes or so. I know I really appreciate it, and our listeners really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much, Scott. This was fun. I don't get to reflect very often on myself and everything I've done, but had to really think about it with all the questions you asked me. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. And for those of you watching, listening, thank you for watching and listening. This wraps up this episode as usual. Give us a like, give us a follow, give us a 5-star review, and we will see you back here next time on The Flex. Thank you.